Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. For those who do not know me, my name is Alessandro Carmona. I'm the coordinator of project RE4Industry project. I come from the CIRSE, the Technology Center, which is located in Zaragoza, Spain. I'm really happy to see you all. For the last 3 years, it has been quite exciting to be part of this project, and it's very exciting to see you finally. To many of all of you in face to face. We have exchanged multiple emails to try to gather the feedback from the multiple stakeholders in the industry to see how finally we can decarbonize part of the industry. That's why I'm really happy to see you all here. So today we are here for the final event of the project. We have a very interesting journey today. We will try to see a few of the results of the project, but we have as well prepared a very interesting roundtable to listen to the feedback of the different stakeholders within the industrial sector. We will begin with a brief talk on the different policy issues regarding the decarbonization of the industry. We will have as well the participation of one of our colleagues within the project to talk about one of the main results of the project. We have invited as well a sister project called Retrofit to talk about how resource-intensive industries can be as well decarbonized. And finally, we are having a roundtable to listen to what we have, the different feedbacks for the industry to see how we can help decarbonize the sector. Again, I'm very happy to see you all. I'm looking forward to the journey, looking forward to the feedback. As you may know, the project has been mainly, the focus of the project has been mainly to gather the feedback of everyone to see how we can help decarbonize and what strategies, what roadmaps are available to decarbonize the industry. So I would like to give you the welcome, and I would like to call Alessandro Polito to give a first introduction speech, and looking forward to what you have to say. Could you please say a few words about your career, please? Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Alessandro. Good morning, everybody, and thanks a lot for inviting me to this event and giving me the honor to do this introductory speech. My name is Alessandro Polito. I work in DG Energy, where I'm team leader in Unit C1, which is the unit in charge of renewable energy and energy system integration. And I cover several files, including a couple of them particularly relevant for this event, which is renewables in industry, in particular the provisions that we included in the revision of the Renewable Energy Directive that we'll mention later, and also renewable hydrogen. So I'm in charge of the hydrogen strategy and more specifically for the renewable hydrogen part and the targets that we have set in the Renewable Energy Directive. Renewables are crucial for fighting climate change, of course, for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and decarbonizing our energy systems, but not only for that. Renewables are very important because they create jobs, they create growth, they spur innovation, competitiveness, manufacturing creation in the EU, and they are an essential tool to provide affordable energy to European consumers, being them citizens or companies. This is why they play a very important role in the Fit for 55 package, more specifically in the Renewable Energy Directive, but not only. And that's why also they feature prominently also in the REPowerEU plan. In our strategy to phase down fossil fuels and especially phase out fossil fuels imports from Russia, renewables play a very important role. And I think that the data that we got from last year's renewables installation and how much gas they managed to replace are very much telling of how important renewables can be also for the purpose of energy security. In the provisionally agreed revised renewable energy directive that was first agreed by co-legislators in March this year, and now you might have heard the news of COREPER agreeing to the final text, and now the text moving to Parliament for discussion in ITRE, I think already next week. We set a target of 42.5% renewables with an aspiration to reach 45%. The revision of the Renewable Energy Directive doesn't only set this general target. It has many elements. We can divide them in 3 building blocks, if you wish. One of them, it includes some horizontal provisions, more specifically on permitting, but also on guarantees of origins, energy system integration through electrification and hydrogen. A second building block is concern more sustainable bioenergy production. And the third one is about targets, not only the general target, but also sectorial ones. Because we understood from the experience of the current Renewable Energy Directive that the general target alone is not sufficient to push for renewables penetration in those sectors that are a bit slower in decarbonizing. So while for electricity, we achieved what we wanted to achieve, in heating and cooling and in transport, progress was slower. And that's why I introduced also specific sub-targets. Achieving both the general and the sub-targets will be challenging. It's very ambitious. It means basically doubling our current renewable energy shares. We have to go from 22% that we had in 2020 and 2021 to more than to around almost doubling it in 8 years. This is challenging, but it's doable. And we can see that because already many member states are putting forward ambitious plans. They're revising their own plans. We are in the process of discussing and receiving the first drafts of the NECPs. They're including plenty of projects on renewables and energy efficiency in their recovery and resilience plans, and also in the REPowerEU chapters of the RRPs. And we can see also some positive signals from last year and the beginning of this year. Last year, there were 16 gigawatt of wind installed, 41 of solar. This is an increase of 45% and 47% respectively. Most of the new solar capacity came from rooftop. 60% was from rooftop, which means also empowering citizens and alleviating also their energy bills. Last year, solar and wind together generated 22% of the EU's electricity, overcoming natural gas and coal for the first time. And this month, so 2023, wind and solar generated more electricity than all fossil fuels combined for the first time in European history across one entire month. And then we can go on, other data, the sales of heat pumps increased by 40%, electric cars by 15%. So indeed, very positive data. And if we look at national level, there are some very good and interesting success stories. But this is nowhere close to where we need to be. I mean, it's a good progress, good increase, but we need to add about 1.5 times more wind and solar capacity than we have today. Today, we have 400 gigawatt. We need to add 650 gigawatt on top of what we have for a total of more than 1 terawatt by 2030. This can be done in a cost-effective manner only if we harness all the potential of renewables across all sectors. So not just electricity, that was maybe the key focus until now, but also addressing all other sectors in an integrated approach that looks at electricity, but also buildings, transport, heating and cooling, and industry. And this is why the Renewable Energy Directive, as I mentioned before, includes sector-specific targets. One of them is for renewable energy consumption in industry. And this is the key topic that I want to focus now, and especially relevant for this event. Industry will be included for the first time in the Renewable Energy Directive. It was not included up until now. And since we realized the progress of renewables was too slow, that's why it was included specifically a focus on industry and the target on industry. The industry sector is responsible for 32% of EU energy consumption, but fossil fuels still cover most of this energy consumption. 91% of heating and cooling in industry is based on fossil fuels, only 9% of renewable heating and cooling. If we look at electricity, the situation is a bit better, but still only 22% of electricity consumed in the industry sector comes from renewables. We need to speed up the uptake of renewables if we want to achieve carbon neutrality and if we want industry to be part of this path, of this progress towards carbon neutrality. And carbon price alone is not sufficient. It provides price signals. It is certainly a big incentive to transition towards renewable energy sources, but it's not sufficient alone. And this is especially the case. The importance of renewables has been increased in the last year given the high energy prices and the role that renewables can play in reducing these energy prices. So we need industry to be on board. We need them to speed up the uptake of renewables, including through electrification, but not only through electrification. And our modeling shows that around 30% of the demand of industry will be covered by renewables by 2030. This will be done partly through electrification, but also through the direct use of renewables and also through the use of renewable fuels. In industry, investments often have very long lead times, but also very long life. You do investments and you do them for decades. And so the industry is faced now with investment decisions that need to be taken before 2030, but will have a longer term impact. And we need to be sure, we need to make sure that these investments are as much as possible green and compliant with our decarbonization pathways. We see more and more companies investing in the green transition, in energy efficiency, but also in electrification and renewables to decarbonize their end uses and their production processes. This is not only a way to show social responsibility, to show care for our planet, but it's also a way to improve these companies' financial performance and carbon footprint, which has, thanks to the ETS, also an economic impact and economic implications. Direct electrification and decarbonization of heating and cooling, for instance, through heat pumps and district heating, will be key to increase the share of renewable energy in the industry sector. Taking into account, for instance, that heating and cooling make up approximately 75% of energy used in industry globally. Therefore, there is a significant potential to decarbonize there. I mentioned already that the pace of penetration of renewables in industry is quite slow, and I mentioned that we work on that by amending the Renewable Energy Directive and introducing a specific provision to cover renewables in industry to help to accelerate the transition in a cost-efficient way. The proposal has an indicative trajectory, so very important. It's not a mandatory one, but it's an indicative one for the uptake of renewables in the industry sector with a minimum annual increase of 1.6 percentage points between now and 2030. This is very important because it would allow us to monitor progress across member states. It does not put an obligation on member states, so still keeps a degree of flexibility for member states and for industry in the period up to 2030. Industrial investment cycles are relatively long and can set the direction for the company for multiple decades. So setting early benchmarks to increase the share of renewables in industry provides long-term signals to the industry. The main aim of this target is to tell the industry this is the direction where we want to go, so that there are signals and all investors and all stakeholders have an idea of where we are heading to. There is also in our proposal a sub-target for the consumption of renewable fuels of non-biological origin, which is another way to say renewable hydrogen and its derivatives. It applies to member states, so at member state level, so not for company specific, not at EU level in general, but the member state level. There is a target for industry and one for transport. I will focus on the one for industry. It includes both uses for energy and non-energy purposes. So for instance, hydrogen for heating and cooling, but also hydrogen as a feedstock in the production of chemicals or in the production of steel. The idea of this target is to push the industry to use renewable hydrogen, to drive up investments in renewable hydrogen for industrial use, and to give a signal to member states on the need to support the use of renewable hydrogen, because in the end, member states are the ones that have to show compliance with these targets, and so they will be the one putting in place the specific measures and the support on top of what the EU can provide in terms of support for renewable hydrogen in order to achieve these targets. The proposal the Renewable Energy Directive also includes a further element that is relevant for industry, that is the promotion of voluntary labeling schemes for industrial products that are claimed to be produced using renewable energy and renewable fuels of non-biological origin. So the purpose of this measure is to give recognition and a premium to so-called green products, so the products using renewable energy for the production, but also to ensure the reliability of this claim. And finally, one important thing to be considered is that although the target for renewables in industry is an indicative one, we have a mandatory target for heating and cooling, which incorporates also the use of renewables in industry whenever the use is for renewable heating and cooling purposes, which is a 1.1% target. We need to support the industrial sector in this transition, and many member states, I mentioned already, are using the financial boost of the Recovery and Resilience Fund, partly also to increase self-generation, but there are also other EU funds. There is InvestEU, Horizon Europe, the Innovation Fund, and I would also like to mention specifically for renewable hydrogen, also the upcoming Hydrogen Bank and the auction on renewable hydrogen that are planned to take place by the end of this year. Last but not least, very important to consider that access to renewables through also power purchase agreements will be key to increase the industry share of renewable usage. And this is why in the revision of the Renewable Energy Directive, we also focus on power purchase agreements and on how member states can accelerate their use. And this is also key. PPAs are also key, play a central role in reducing electricity prices. And this is why they have an important place in the ongoing work to reform our electricity market design. In conclusion, the message that I would like to deliver is that to decarbonize our energy system, we have to act on all fronts. And industry with its high shares of energy consumption is one of the key sectors that we need to decarbonize. And we needed to address for a long time, and now the time has come for doing that. And the revision of the Renewable Energy Directive introduces a new way of looking at the industry, a new paradigm, a new instrument to look at the green transition for the entire sector that we hope will bring its benefit between now and 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. I don't know if there are any questions from the... Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Alessandro, for summarizing all the important activities of the Commission. I'm Rainer Janssen from WIP, one of the partners of RE4Industry. My question would be, are you basically, or are you also supporting what you mentioned as a green premium, so additional prices for green products, which are now based on labeling and voluntary initiatives? I did hear that there is some demand for green steel, but I'm not so sure about other sectors yet. Maybe we can also discuss in the panel. But is there anything that the Commission is doing to support this? No, because the question is always who pays actually the additional costs.
Well, financially speaking, no, not in the context of the Renewable Energy Directive at least. What we are doing, as I mentioned, there is an obligation for member states to put in place schemes for the recognition of green products. So schemes that would allow to identify and to have a methodology to identify whether certain claims are reliable or not, and the indication of how much renewable energy is used in the processing for the production of certain products. So this will certainly give an incentive because we have clarity and we have certainty whenever a product is claimed to be produced with renewable energy, there will be a methodology and there will be schemes put in place by member states that will certify whether these products are green or not. And this automatically should lead, at least in principle, to a green premium. We know that many users are willing to pay an extra cost. Of course, we need to see how much this extra cost is acceptable or not, but certainly this is an incentive, and it's in a way the same approach that we have when we set the targets for renewable fuel non-biological origin. What we wanted to give was to give an indication a mandatory target to achieve that will provide a premium and incentive to buy certain products. So in this respect, this is what we are doing. We are not directly giving financial support for the production of products with renewable energy, but I don't think that it depends from the products, of course, whether you have to change your process or not. So the situation will be different for steel that you mentioned, because there you have to change the process and move towards a more expensive one, because at the moment DRI with the use of renewable oil, hydrogen is more expensive than the classic blast furnace procedure. But in other sectors where you already use electricity or where you already use low temperature heating and cooling, transitioning to renewables does not entail any new cost except for the investment cost that you need to have to install the renewable electricity or the renewable heating and cooling installations. But these costs very often are covered at the moment by, for example, national funding or through the recovery and resilience plan. So that's why we are pushing a lot. And from what we've seen in member states, the decarbonization of industry is always one of the main chapters in their RRPs, and also in the REPower EU chapters that we're seeing now. There is always a strong focus on industry, so on how to decarbonize with energy efficiency and with higher use of renewables.
There's one more question here.
You have mentioned renewable energies, but 2/3 of industrial emissions stem from industries that have process emissions. What is your take on that?
Well, part of these process emissions can be tackled with renewable fuels of non-biological origin in certain cases. So you have processes that will change. This is, for instance, what we have in the steel manufacturing, where some of the emissions are process emissions, and with the replacement of fossil-based feedstock with renewable hydrogen, part of these process emissions will be removed. The rest is a bit outside the scope of my activity, but I can say, for example, carbon capture will have a role to play there. And we are, at the moment, there is a public consultation going on a carbon capture strategy that the European Commission is working on. So you will see, as far as I understand, it should be published relatively soon. So we are also working on this front.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Otherwise, we thank you again, Alessandro, for your talk. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Now we have a very interesting talk from our colleague Olgu from WIP. She will talk about the innovations in the decarbonization of the industry. Thank you, Olgu.
I will see the slides from the... Okay, then.
Claire, she should press at all times this or no?
No, that's okay.
And when I want to skip the slide, I will just tell you, right? Yes. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Olgu Birgi from WIP Renewable Energies, and today I will give you an overview about renewable energy technologies we are looking into in the framework of RE4Industry project.
Give me 1 second.
No worries. Next, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. To give you a background, here in this graph, you can see the historic emissions by sector in megaton carbon dioxide equivalent. And in 2017, the European Union emitted around 4 gigaton carbon dioxide equivalent, with 5 sectors contributing at the bulk of greenhouse gases the most. As Alessandro also mentioned, the industry is coming the first, is contributing to this greenhouse gas emissions the most, with 30%, followed by power sector, transportation sector, buildings, and agriculture sector. Next, please. And if you're wondering like what kind of industries is contributing to these emissions the most, here you can see the emission by subsector in megaton carbon dioxide equivalent in 2017. Non-metallic minerals, metals, and chemicals are representing the 46% of these emissions. Iron and steel is contributing to these emissions the most, followed by cement, other chemicals, lime, and glass. Basic products like cement, glass, steel, and plastics require high temperature. Is one of the reasons why these industries are contributing with the biggest greenhouse gas emissions. And also these hard to abate emissions pose a significant challenge to achieving emissions reductions in heavy industry. Next, please. In addition to the combustion emissions we just mentioned, there is also process emissions. Emissions are split between fuel combustion and process emissions, and half of industrial emissions come from fuel combustion for the process heat. But at the same time, we should be considering that there is a big process emission coming, especially from non-metallic minerals, metals, and chemicals. And solutions, therefore, must be targeting both fuel combustion and process emissions to efficiently address industrial emissions. And as I mentioned, RE4Industry is looking into different renewable energy technology and solutions in the long-term vision, 2050, and short-term vision, which is 2030. In the scope of 2030, as you know, industry has different heat and electricity demand to produce this energy in a green way. For producing green heat, we are looking into solar thermal, heat pumps, geothermal, biomass, biofuels, and the green hydrogen. And for the production of green electricity, photovoltaics, wind, hydraulic, and renewable power purchase agreements are considered within the project. We have reports for every single project, and you can find them there public on our RE4Industry website. And when it comes to the renewable energy technologies within the scope of 2050, we look into them in two categories. The first one is the general innovation, which can be applied to every single energy-intensive industries, like carbon capture and storage, alternative materials, and new chemical production methods. And there's also sector-specific application, which is focused on to technologies to be applied in steel, ceramics, chemicals and fertilizers, glass, non-ferrous metals, and cement and lime industry. The previous one? No, sorry. Yeah. Here you can see the general renewable energy technologies within the scope of 2050. When we look into the current developments, we see that in almost every sector, efficiency improves continuously. Also, a growing number of processes shift towards electricity. Material efficiency, longevity, and reuse are recognized as key strategies as well. And when we look at the technologies achieving maturity, as we mentioned before, is electrification, material efficiency, energy efficiency, and increased reuse and recycling, especially for the sectors like steel, aluminium, and glass. And key research and development areas to enable future technologies are carbon capture, utilization, and storage, zero carbon hydrogen production, hydrogen, and renewable gases uses. At the same time, in the project, we are looking into the different success cases, which are energy-intensive industries successfully implemented the renewable energy technologies. We gave place to ArcelorMittal, which is a partner of a steel anode project, and here I will introduce the technology they are using shortly. They are doing carbon dioxide by a conversion into fuels. And you can, this project is applied in the Ghent, Belgium plant with the goal of producing 80 million liters of bioethanol. And the bioethanol produced by the stilanol plant will be used as a low carbon alternative fuel in transport sector, which will end up preventing the emission of approximately 130,000 tons carbon dioxide per year. And when we look at the technology path, we see that ArcelorMittal is producing steel, and the off gases coming from the blast furnace is being sent to the gas treatment. Here, the gas is being separated, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen is being sent to the bioreactor, where there is a number of microorganisms are living. And this microorganism using the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen as the feedstock to produce bioethanol at the end, which is being used for the transport sector. And as you can see, after bioethanol storage, they're also using a circular economy, using the relics, sending the off gas back to the blast furnace and treating the water and using the microorganism over and over again. And now I will show you a table about the sector-specific renewable energy technologies. Here in this huge table, you can see the suitable renewable energy combination options for energy-intensive industries. The green is representing sector already applies the technology on a large scale. Orange is standing for high potential, yellow medium potential, and red means that there is limited or no significant application foreseen. And the gray stands for possible application, but no main route or wide scale application. When we look at the technologies, you can see like most of them, they are either already applied in the sector in a wide way, or they had high potential or medium potential. But when we look at these, some specific technologies like electrochemical processes, we see that it's at the moment, like it's not possible to apply this technology in a various of energy intensive industry sector. And green hydrogen still is not a mature technology. That's why you cannot see the wide scale application here. And in paper industry especially, it has limited or no significant application foreseen. And when we look at the carbon usage and storage technologies for steel, chemicals, fertilizers, cement and lime industry, it has a high potential. But for the other industries, it either has limited potential or the technology is not mature enough. And when we look at the partial conclusions after this assignment we conducted, we can say that energy-intensive industries decarbonization will occur through a progressive use of an energy mix that allows European industry sectors to remain competitive in the global scale. And each industry sector will require specific and different renewable energy solutions. There is no solution fit for all. And especially those top greenhouse gas emitting industries has to be focused on, and RE4Industry has also been conceived as an initial point of discussion to be shared with potential decision makers to favor a transition of energy intensive industries to full decarbonization. Yes, that's all. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I will try to answer, or Alessandro will help me maybe.
Is there any question? Yeah, well, I guess we will have anyway time to discuss this. But as you have seen, we have tried to cover multiple technologies and how this can be applied to multiple sectors, which is quite a challenge. But thank you, Olga, for your presentation. We will have more time to discuss afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much also. And I would like to take this moment to kind of like advertise our RE4Industry brochure. If you haven't taken it yet, it's kind of like summarizing all the technologies we covered within the project and more. And we also gave place to the success cases. Thank you.
Now we have a section focused on the solution for the energy intensive industries. First of all, I would like to welcome our colleague Anatoly from CERF. She will give us a brief overview of the success cases that we have included in the project. Welcome, please.
Hello all. So I don't put something here. You do it for me. Okay. You know, it does that. As my short agenda for today, we're gonna see an overview of CERF profile and RE4Industry profile. The success cases will be about the steel and glass industries. That's why I'm gonna make a prologue on that. And the success cases are ArcelorMittal, Andrés steel industries, and Veralia from Spain, the glass industry. I'm gonna present the RE4Industry interactive map tool and a few conclusions. Continue. Thank you. You can see the CERF Institute at the right. I'm coming from the Chemical Process and Energy Resources Institute, who has a great number of synergies for research and development and innovation with other institutes, universities, and the industry. And I'm going to talk about the RE4Industry aiming to provide 100 renewable energy for the energy-intensive industries, AIIs. Continue, please. And that is because due to the 2023 Net Zero Industry Act that repeats the EU Commission for the net zero till 2050, and due to the target of 55% lowering emission to 2030, the AIIs are playing a very important role on that due to their representation of almost the 1/4 of the final energy consumption and of course emission. So they have to have a clear long-term vision and a strategy in order to remain both competitive and contribute to the decarbonization EU targets. Sorry, the technologies. Oh no, sorry. Oops, an overview of the technologies that already exist and can occur on those targets are the energy efficient measurements, the electrification from renewables, geothermal energy, biomass, low carbon hydrogen, and other synthetic fuels, carbon capture and storage, in order to provide pathways for carbon capture and utilization, process intensification, and circular economy. Thank you. Continue with the overview of the steel and glass industry. Why? Because our RE4Industry project is associated with cases that have successfully implemented or investigated now decarbonization solutions for energy-intensive industry. Those solutions could be biomass, biogas, biomethane, electrification, of course, geothermal, as we've seen, green hydrogen, heat pumps, and power purchase agreement, as it was commented at the beginning, solar heat, and a few others. We are targeting in non-ferrous and ferrous metal, cement and lime, and chemical fertilizer industries, ceramics, and glass. Those are the most intensive industries, sectors that we research on the program. Why we're dealing with the steel industry, their emissions are almost 5% of the total emissions of CO2 and almost 22% of the total industrial emissions in the EU. And they have increasing emission due to increasing production product needs. At the left, there is a sketch of technological innovations in the steel industry, mostly have to do with hydrogen, carbon, and electricity, or synergies of those technologies. We're gonna see more later. Thank you. Concerning the steel industry, the primary route, which is the most energy intensive route, and so it has the most emission, have already applied some methods like in order to decarbonize, methods such as coke, dry quenching, and optimizing pellet ration. as well as blast furnaces equipment like top gas recovery turbines. It's replacing coke with natural gas. It can be a significant cut for CO2. Injecting hydrogen or ammonia into the blasting furnaces could be lead to that target, decarbonization. The less intensive secondary route could make savings on the electricity used in power in the electricity cut furnaces, shifting the electricity mix with renewables. And I would like to underline that the steel industry is the products are highly recyclable, and this could be a cornerstone for the circular economy. Continue, please. Concerning the glass industry, again, the glass is highly recyclable. We can, I'm underlining that too, and it's a large used material. So, okay. It's largely used materials. The glass manufacturing industry is an intensive industry due to the process lines that are taking place under very high temperature. And the gas that is usually used is natural gas, corresponding to 75% of the energy that is required for the processes. That could be almost immediately switched to biomethane, but generally there are some enablers and barriers in the decarbonization glass industry. The enablers has to do with financially valuable technologies, the lifespan of the equipment, the regulation encouraging energy efficiency in the downstream sector, the commitment by top management to an environmental policy or climate change strategy, the stable energy efficiency and carbon regulatory framework, and the replacement of the obsolete equipment and the strong recycling infrastructure. But there is a long payback period and the high cost on some of the previous mentioned. There is a high and fluctuation, we all know that, fluctuating energy prices, and even playing field with overseas competition. So the regulation has to do much on that. Retrofitting capability, lack of capital, chemical and process efficiency limitation, and low demand and risk. Concluding on the glass industries, there are novel technologies for decarbonization, combustion innovations, reducing combustion emissions, and a circularity perspective due to the increasing of cullet usage of product to the production of new glass or calcinating raw materials for calcium oxide to substitute carbonate reduction of carbon dioxide emissions. Thank you. Continuing with the success cases, it's the first two, the steel industry of ArcelorMittal and Bracero from Spain. The first one, ArcelorMittal, is the leading steel and mining company around the world and is a leader in the major global steel market, including a series of production and I was very short here, sorry. The renewable energy technology already applied in ArcelorMittal and mostly by solar and wind energy solutions. You can see the turbines, the great turbines that there are here in Belgium at your left, and the solar solutions at the picture on the right. But the three main decarbonization projects that are taking place now in this industry has to do with carbon to value project, or RE4 and Catalyst project. The first one is a cost-effective carbon capture and utilization technology that captures and separates carbon dioxide from waste gases for transport and storage and or reusage. The Torero project is a 2.5 million tons direct reduction of iron plant and electric arc furnaces facility at the Grand site that will operate along with state-of-the-art partially waste wood or plastic-fired blast furnaces, or both. The project is expected to reduce the emission by 225,000 tons per year. The Carbalist project is a group of technologies which allows the production of basic chemicals such as biomethanol by utilizing steel-making gases. All the above are targeting to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by almost 5 million tons per year till 2030. Continue, please. This is the roadmap of the factory, targeting for 75% reduction of CO2 emissions at 2030 and net zero till 2050 by steel-making transformation, energy transformation, increasing scrap usage in circularity way, resourcing clear electricity, and offsetting essential emissions. Continue, please. Next slide, please. Continue with the Bracero, steel industry, which is a steel industry located in Spain, in Zaragoza. It was born in 1963. I would say that it was a new industry concerning some others. Spanish steel industry is at the lead of environmental performance and has been addressed from several forefronts, particularly the efficiency of raw materials utilization, the water and energy consumption, and so as the reduction of carbon dioxide emissions and the carbon waste valorization have been the key strategy line in this direction in order for the whole sector to improve its impact and process sustainability. The main action undertaken by Bracero was in 2021 with the agreement with the solar farm company for the installation of a photovoltaic solar cell park in order to further reduce the fossil fuel consumption, targeting in almost 50 tons per year reduction of CO2 emissions. Thank you. This is the installation we see at the pictures, and there are some challenging. The challenge has to do with the factory's large age and the adaptation of the roof prior to the installation of the plate that would be the entire at the very high cost. Continue, please. Continuing with Veralia in the Spanish glass industry. Veralia is a top glass manufacturing company dedicated to implement innovation in its process to enhance corporate decarbonization strategies in their facilities located in Zaragoza. There are two areas targeting by the company: the strengthening of the circularity of glass packaging and significant reduction of CO2 emissions of its operation. Again, Veralia has identified a potential of emission reduction on liquid biofuels in order to substitute at least partially new renewable fossil sources. Its emission is minus 46% of carbon dioxide emission by 2030 and reaching net zero by 2050. Thank you. A few more about those two actions of Veralia company. Concerning the strengthening of circularity of the glass packaging, that can be done by increasing glass collection. Collection could be done. The increasing glass collection could reach a rate of 90% by 2030 in Europe. It could optimize cullet use by increasing the external cullet in their worldwide production, and that can be reached 59% by 2025, and developing the reusage of its packaging That already happens in France. So, concerning the second area, the reduction of CO2 emissions at its operation, Veralia bottles and jar production process, entire subsystem energy consumption and carbon dioxide emissions. And the main impacts are found in furnace energy efficiency and recyclable of cullet usage. Veralia aims to reduce the carbon dioxide, as we have already seen, by 46% in the next 2 years. And Veralia aims to achieve a 3% reduction in the weight of non-refillable standard bottles by 2025. Some key points on those actions that are undergoing or ongoing concerning the scope 1 and 2 of Veralia industry. Concerning the first action could be optimizing the energy consumption of Veralia industrial facilities, and the second action could be the development and investment on low carbon furnaces. At the graph at the right, there can be seen an estimation of those targeted for the previous, for the years 19 to 21. Continue, please. And the third action on scopes 1 and 3 is to develop renewable or decarbonized energy. Continue with the scope 3, which in relation with the energy consumption, that might have the best solution of all by the raw materials emission factors per suppliers by reducing the raw materials emissions factors per supplier assessment, a reduction of the use of virgin raw materials. Continue, please. Before closing, I want to mention a few things on the RE4Industry interactive map, where you can find the RE4Industry.eu website at the RE4Industry platform. This is an icon of the interactive map, and you can see all the mission activities of the industrial ecosystem of Europe. Continue, please. Okay. And for example, for the glass case, you can see the picture on the left, and the non-ferrous metal we commented before at the right. You can even check for each cluster, each unit, the specific emission. Maybe you cannot see it well in the smaller picture, but you can do it. You can find it in the interactive tool. Yeah. A few conclusions of the above. Regarding the emission related to the electricity, on one potential measurement, it be the electricity to be produced from sun and wind sources, as happened to our success cases. Carbon capture and utilization technology is crucial for carbon CO2 intensive industries in order to reach net zero emission, particularly in hard to update sectors with processes that naturally generate CO2 emissions. Emissions produced from fuel combustions could be avoided by switching the fuel mix that are not contributing to the carbon footprint. Concluding, general conclusion of the above, the net zero transition of heavy industry is not only feasible, but also beneficial for the companies by ensuring them long-term competitiveness in Europe and worldwide, and let them move in towards a climate safe and safe future. Thank you all, and that was the last of it.
Are there any questions? As you have seen, part of the work is in this conducted by CERT has been trying to compile success cases all over Europe. It has been quite challenging because and there are not that many success cases, and there are not that many companies willing to share this very sometimes sensitive information, but they manage quite well in compiling all these success cases that you actually can find a brief report of all of this in the webpage of the project. Well, if is there any question? Otherwise, we continue with the next presentation. Thank you, Anatoly. Now I would like to welcome my colleague Diego to the stage. He coordinates the retrofit project. I would say it's a sister project focusing on another part of the decarbonization of the industry.
Hello, good morning. Thanks, Alessandro, for the invitation for the presentation of the retrofit project, where we are going to explain a bit. I will try to do it very quickly in order to explain a bit the project, the retrofit project. It's not related with the renewable energy, but it's related with the intensive industries and some activities that we have performed in order to reduce mainly the consumption of energy and resources. Okay, so just a brief numbers of the project. So the project ends in October of this year. So 48 months of the project that will finish by the end of the year. So yes, I encourage you to check our website and our social media in order to know the last results of the projects and the last event. Well, the total cost is about 15 million, and only now millions of euros are funded by the European Commission. So it means that about 6 million euros are own resources from mainly demo sites. So it means that they are very interested in this kind of solution that we are developing in the project. Well, 18 partners from all around Europe. Okay, so the main objective of the project is the use of variable bio-based and circular feedstock in the processes with the retrofitting of the core equipment, okay, of the industries, and also try to improve the management and control system and develop a decision support system that allows plant operators to make more easy, let's say, their day-to-day work. So we are studying these solutions in 5 energy-intensive industries in the agrochemical, aluminum, cement, ceramic, and steel sectors. Okay, so I'm going to explain a bit. Well, the impact of the project. This is the theoretical impact that we have at the very beginning of the project. So mainly increase the energy and resources efficiency, about 19 of the energy and 22 of the resources efficiency. And the estimated saving of cost is about 10 million euros for all the demo sites and about 155 kilotons years of CO2 reduction of emission. Okay, so this is the impact that we calculated in the very beginning. So we are now calculating some of these impacts, and well, we think will be very close to this number. So that's very good results. So just to show you its demo site of this sector, for the agrochemical sector, we have Fertiberia, that is one of the leaders producers of fertilizers in the world, also mainly in ammonia products. So in that case, we are in the reactor or the phosphorus reactor, and we have designed a new reactor in order to use alternative phosphorus sources. Okay. The idea is to replace more or less 10% of these of the current used phosphorus sources. That there's another initiatives around the world, but they are replacing about 2-3%. So this is the first time to achieve this amount. Well, also they are recovering some raw materials from the factories close to there. So this is also a circular concept. Okay. In trying to reduce the cost. Okay, so you can see more or less the things that they have done. So they have prepared a pilot plan only for the project in order to test this new reactor using these new sources of phosphorus. So we have make a digital twin of the reactor using the data of pilot plan, and they have used to test or to calculate the pH and the temperature of the reaction inside the reactor, and they have used to develop the new reactor that are going to be installed. So this it's a bit delayed, this demo site, for a lot of reasons, but mainly for the price of the natural gas. So with this solution, they are trying to reduce also the consume of the plant in order to avoid problems in the future. Okay. In the case of cement sector, the case is Cecil, that is a Portuguese producer. In the case, we act in the rotatory kiln, and we have developed a new burner, okay, in order to burn different fuels, in the case alternative fuels, and we have developed new sensors for this demo site, a tool related with images in order to know the combustion, the status of the combustion, developed by Circe in that case, but also we have some sensor developed by either research center in Spain that have developed sensors to characterize the clinker and to know a bit the composition of the alternative fuels. The idea is mainly to replace the fossil fuel close to 100. We all don't have achieved this amount. We are about 60–80% depending of the test, but we are making let's say theoretical test in order to know if we can use or replace the 10% of the fossil fuel using hydrogen in that case. Well, at the same as in the previous case, we have made a digital twin for this burner, okay, in order to know how the combustion is going, taking into account the alternative fuels that we are using. In that case, the alternative fuels is RDF, that are refuses derivative fuels, and also tires and something like that. And the other is coke, that they are using to avoid the use of carbon. And with this digital twin, we have developed a new burner that allows to use these alternative fuels in the plant. Related with the sensors, this is a sensor that we have developed in the case in Circe, but well, it's a visual camera that using machine learning algorithms check the combustion of the clinker. Okay, so on the right you have real images from the clinker, from the kiln, sorry, in Cecil, and using this camera, well, you can check the combustion and see if there are any problem with the new materials that we are using. Okay, and related with the other sensor that have prepared IMEN Research Center, in that case, is for checking the clinker that are using for the production of cement. And we are using different sensors, but the idea is to use a spectral camera and profilometers in order to check the size of the temperature of the clinker online. So until now they are taking samples and checking it in the laboratory, but now it's online. Okay, so the idea is to improve this management and control system. In the case of ASAS, this is an aluminum sector. We act in the melting furnace. In that case, there are several actions performing this in this demo site. We have designed a new burner head, a new injection system for U2, and also the lacquering system. That the lacquering system helps to remove some paints and some oils that are in the scrap. So the idea is to try to increment about 50% increment of scrap in order to avoid the use of primary billets of aluminium, and with this reduce the energy consumption about 15 times. Okay, and also of course reduce the greenhouse emissions. Also, as all the other places, we have made the digital twin and we have made the different tests in order to develop this new burner head. So we have made the different tests and select the best one for this demo site. So they have create the new or develop the new burner and also the new U2 injection system from zero. And as you can see on the left is the delacquering system. It's a very, very big system. So we are talking about developments that seems that are coming from the laboratory but are installed in the real factories. Also some analyzer of U2 in that case to improve this management and control system of the company and try to reduce the consume of resources. In the case of Torrecid, that it's in the ceramic sector. In that case, Torrecid are producing frites that are then used to produce the ceramics. Also, they have made several retrofit actions, focuses in the furnace for the melting of the frites. Well, the improvement of the feeding system, redesign of the flue gases, and implementation of new sensors. Mainly to reduce the consume of energy and material and reduce the material waste. So they have a problem when they change of the recipe of the frites. So it depends of they have to modify the recipe for each frites that they are producing, and they are losing a lot of material. And with this solution, the idea is to reduce the waste of the frites. So yeah, in that case, also the digital twins that help us to know the temperature inside of the melt on the furnace, okay, for the melting of the frites. And also we have developed a new flue gases recovery system in order to, this system allows to reduce the amount of energy that we need or that they need to dry the frites when they are going outside the furnace, and also they are using this gas to increase the temperature of the furnace and reducing the amount of energy. In that case, for example, the new sensor that we have developed is a visual camera to check the amount of material inside of the burner, inside of the furnace. So they are avoiding the problems that if they don't have enough amount, they have problems with the furnace. And this is connected with the feeding system, and this means that they not necessary that a person check visually this amount, because before this solution, there's a person that have to go to this window and check the amount of the frites. And also we have installed several new sensors in order to have a more monitoring and control system. And the last but not the least is for the steel sector. In that case, we have two demo sites, Feno and from Pitini Group, and Tenaris Silcop Tooth in Romania, and Pitini in Italy. In that case, we act in the electric arc furnace. In Feno, we modified the feeding system and the burner and the injection system in order to use alternative materials. In that case, is plastic grains. At the beginning was also the idea to use biochar, but there are some problems with the biochar because there are some considered ITEX, so can be some explosions, and they have to be different way that the plastic are using right now. So we have some problems, but we are planning some tests by the end of the project in order to have also the opportunity or the option to have the results. Okay. And for the Silco Tooth, they are mainly modified the injection system because they are using some dust and sludge for some companies around the factory, and also from another factories from the same groups. Okay, so in that case, the main goal is the reduce of the greenhouse gases emissions. As another places, the same, the digital twin to know the best option and to design the new burner and injector. In that case, the burner the same equipment is used to burn the new material, but also to inject the new material. Okay, that is a bit different from another places. And well, this is just some images from the electrical furnace, and on the right, well, you can see it's a very, very intensive industry with a lot of energy consumption. And in that case, well, it's not in the, maybe in the images it's not very clear, but that you can, the flame of the side of the frame is the same if we use alternative materials, if we don't use it using just methane and oxygen, or if we make the mix, okay, in order to reduce the use of carbon. So just to see that, well, the results are very, very good, and they are using this solution right now. And finally, all of this has been also used in order to develop a new decision support system. Okay, you use all the inputs from the digital twin for the machine learning algorithms, from the new sensors in order to develop this decision support system that mainly is to help plant operators to know the best conditions or the best formula to develop the new products, and in order to know a bit if the new products will be more expensive or not, depending on the material that they are going to use, you know if they will emit more or less emissions than the different products. So it's, let's say, a very useful tool, not only for the management of the plant, also for the operators of the plant. Well, there's a lot of characteristics, but well, mainly is that you also can compare the simulation processes that the ESS can give you and the real measures measures of the plant. You have KPI calculation, process monitoring. Okay, so there is a lot of information that you can obtain. In any case, this is developed by a partner from the project that is called Optit. We have one member from Optit in the meeting. So you have any doubt or you want to know more about the tool, for sure you can ask him. Okay, so just to finish the real impact, as I have commented before, we have an impact that we have to achieve, but we are now obtaining the results from the demonstration campaign. So some of the demo sites are a bit delayed, another are on time, and in that case is related with Torrecid, that it's ahead the schedule, that is so strange in this kind of projects. But well, you can see that one of the objectives of the Torrecid was to reduce the waste when they are changing the recycle for the fridge, and now they are more or less reducing about the 50%. So before this, the use of the DSS, the digital twin, they make the mix and change the condition, let's say by hand. So just with the knowledge from the people that make the mix, now they have a tool that they are doing it, and they are reducing the amount of waste. Okay, that's very important. Also with the development, remember, of the flue gases recovery, they are reducing the use of water about 10-26%, depending on the result of the water for cooling the fridge after they go outside the furnace. And the estimation is the calculation is about the reduction of 12% of the reduction of the emission. Remember that we thought about 22, so in that case it's a bit low, but let's see with the rest of the demo sites, which is the final result. Okay, so thanks a lot for your attention. Just please, if you have more or you need more information, you can check our website and on our social media channels. And also we are going to make in the following, well, by the beginning of July, a workshop and a long workshop about the use of the DSS and some of the results that we have obtained in the aluminium industry in ASAS. Okay, so you are invited to register and try to, well, obtain maybe a more technical view of the solution that we are developing in the project. Okay, so that's all. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Diego, for this presentation of the sister project, the RE4Industry. Hopefully, it will help as well the whole industry to find solutions and successful examples of how to decarbonize the sector. Is there any specific question to our panelists? Otherwise, we thank you again for your contribution. And
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we can continue with the roundtable of the event. We'll give you the microphone.
Thank you, Alessandro. I mean, with the roundtable, I mean, you were asking, Diego, thank you for the presentation, because it kind of brings us, really into kind of multitude of sectors with the different challenges. But what's interesting, we're looking kind of the commonalities, not within just with the RE4Industry project, but we see it kind of retrofit. Even as you said at the beginning, it's different, looking at the different things, but it's sort of the issues are pretty much shared. So the roundtable, I looked kind of to the list of the people and I think, it might make sense, to kind of reorganize it a little bit, because we have two speakers from two different sectors, which have not been so far covered, and two, which sort of like a little bit broader vision on the decarbonization challenges for industries. So I would like to invite the panelists to join us on the table. Didier, Jorge, Timo, and Frank. And we'll give them opportunity, each of them, to kind of 5 minutes to kind of present. Claire, thank you so much for sharing the slides. To give them opportunity to present, what their industry is doing or what their organization is represented to. Frank, you don't need to sit. I would like to have you first.
Have me first.
Yes. Basically, I mean, as I said, we had steel, we had aluminium, we had cement, we had many different sectors, but we haven't really heard a lot about the line. So I don't know if you want to use a podium or you want to just talk as you sit. It's your choice. So you have.
I can also sit.
You can sit 5 minutes and yeah.
I guess I need to push one of these buttons here, right? Okay. Can everybody hear me? Perfect. So first of all, thanks for the very short introduction, and thanks for having me and having my colleague Klaus here at this event. It's a great opportunity to come together for all these wide branch of industries and all the researchers and talking about the outcome of the very important RE4Industry project. So I'm Frank Ohnemüller, and I'm representing here the German Lime Association, as well as the Research Institute of the German Lime Association that is closely connected. And Lime Association and Research Industry Research department of us is focusing, of course, on lime, but we have similar challenges in front of us than the cement industry has, of course. So first of all, probably some words, who I am and what I did before. So I'm working for the lime industry since almost 9 years now. At the moment, I'm, as I mentioned, the head of research for us. And I'm for my profession, a geologist. So I studied first geology and later on chemistry, especially isotope geochemistry, for the reconstruction of climate change and pH variations in the former ocean 500 million years ago. So I was closely working on weathering, on the carbon cycle, and so on. So all the same problems that we have now again were happening before in the time of the eras several years ago. And so for me, it's very interesting to kind of working on this again.
So at the moment, the main focus of the work that we do at the German lime industry especially, but I'm also working for the European Lime Association together with my colleagues. So I have also a nice perspective what is happening in whole Europe. We are focusing, of course, on CO2 reduction. This is the main issue that we need to work on. So for the lime industry, the biggest challenge is that we have a tremendous amount of CO2 coming from the process. So we heard before, it's a bit of a pity that Alessandro isn't here anymore. We talked about the process emissions that are a special challenge for us. And for us, it's not possible to change the process. For us, the CO2 is coming from our raw material, from the limestone. So the main idea of the whole process is to get the CO2 out of the stone to produce our product, the lime. And the lime is used for very, very many applications. So it's kind of a hidden champion. We use it in our daily lives all day. For example, in this water bottle, the paper is produced with lime, the glass is produced with lime, the aluminium is produced with lime. So we have it everywhere. We have it in the building material, of course, in mortars and plasters. In the cement industry, of course, we have it in the chemical industry, we have it in flue gas cleaning. So it's necessary everywhere and a very important product. And so we can't substitute it. And for that reason, the process emissions that we need to focus on are around the amount of 2/3 of our emissions. So only 1/3 is coming from the fuels. So for that reason, at the moment, this is really interesting here about the outcomes, what kind of renewable fuels are available in Europe, are available for us, for our kilns as a feedstock. And because we can change this quite, at first, this is kind of the low-hanging fruit for us. So first change the fuels to renewables, and afterwards, when CCU and CCS processes are kicking in more and more, this will become for us also very important because the energy amount of that is, will be quite intense. So this is very important too. Special thing here is, for example, for our industry, that hydrogen is a bit of tricky. So the hydrogen route is not that easy for us compared to others, like the steel sector. They are focusing on it, and we have probably the use of biomass and so on as probably the first real thing in the renewable energies as a new fuel. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Franklin. This is good introduction, and we can see it's a total challenge for you because with energy being only 1/3 of emissions, it's sort of the steep climb when it comes to decarbonizing your sector. Copper, Diedert.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. Well, a surprise, Dusan, I'm not going to talk about copper. No, I represent the European Copper Institute, which is the leading advocate of the copper industry in Europe, so meaning mining, smelting, refining, and recycling. But the reason that I'm not going to talk about copper today is because I was asked to maybe more represent a decarbonization route in general in industry that might be overlooked a bit. Well, overlooked is maybe not the word. I've seen some examples in the presentations that we've had this morning, but that's about direct electrification. And of course, we are not talking there about processes like we have Frank's story here, where process emissions are the big chunk. But direct electrification is an available technology for many heating and cooling in industry. We found some numbers that 25% of all the fossil-based heating and cooling in industry can easily be electrified in an economical way already today with available technologies. So even no need for large amounts of innovation funds. What is the thing? Well, maybe first of all, why is it important to focus there? As you all know, electricity is a highly efficient, maybe the highest efficient at the point of use energy source. And it also has a lot of other potential advantages like no emissions at the point of use is one of the elements. Higher precision in operation, mostly depending on the application, of course. Also less maintenance, and I can think of many other advantages. So the thing there is that we see that a lot of industries, and I've looked in some of the roadmaps, a lot of industries have identified direct electrification as a very promising technology to decarbonize, but it is still not happening to the extent that it should or could economically be feasible. Big reason, no surprise there, big reason is of course electricity prices. We need access to competitively priced and sufficient clean electricity, fossil-free electricity, that's one thing. But another thing is also about upscaling. I talked last week to the glass industry, and good that we have had some examples as well. The glass industry, for instance, they have electric melters already in place. There are plants that have electric melters. The thing is that it's only for niche applications, smaller ones. If they want to upscale that, they need support. And there was a big project by the sector. It was a sectoral initiative a few years ago in the Innovation Fund, was partly granted. So to upscale this electromelting in the glass industry, it's kind of hybrid one. So they try to swap the 10% electricity that they have today, 90% gas, to the opposite, around 80% electricity, 20% gas, to a large scale, to really high volume production units, but they need support. So the subsidies have ended midway the project, which is a pity. They now will go further. One of the companies will build two plants, one in Italy and one in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. But again, there we need support. In the steel sector, you see the same thing. There's a high willingness to electrify, but with the current electricity prices, this might not happen to the extent it should. So that's maybe a bit the introduction about why electrification is important, and maybe then to come back a bit, Dusan, to the copper industry. Yeah, why I think it's more important to talk about electrification in other industries is because, okay, copper industry, of course, we are also decarbonizing, but we represent only 0.2% of the global greenhouse gas emission. So we are decarbonizing. I highly recommend to have a look at the copper pathway to net zero, which is the clear commitment of the copper industry to go scope 1, scope 2 net zero emissions by 2050. But the solutions that copper enable, like solar power, wind, electrification, heat pumps, they can abate 2/3 of the global gas emissions in the world. So I think that's more important to talk about that than about copper.
No, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's kind of good you rounded up, back, onto the sort of the partnership, between suppliers and the technologies that provide energies, and us, kind of energy intensive users. I don't mean us as EIP, but also at EIP, kind of we have strongly been supporting of the electrification is kind of it's possibly the best way to decarbonize lots of industries, including some smaller sectors. Timo, I saw you shaking your head when Didit was talking, and you can tell us what are your thoughts?
I'll actually refer to something both of you mentioned. So first, to introduce myself, my name is Timo Geres. I'm a research assistant professor at the Universidad Pontificia Comillas in Madrid, where I'm linked to the Institute for Research and Technology and the chair of low carbon hydrogen study. Well, I've been working on topics related to industrial decarbonization for about 6.5 years. And my area is actually looking at the technical solution, the economics, and see what is the regulatory framework we need to actually have a business case for them. And my 3 points are a little bit a reflection on the work that we have been doing. And the first one could actually serve almost as an alternative conclusion to the RE4Industry project. Because when we talk about industrial decarbonization, we actually talk about 2 different industrial transformations. We talk about the transformation of the emission intensive basic material industry like lime, which is not only energy intensive because of thermal energy use, but also because of process emissions. And that's what we see is we need a transformation, a deep transformation of these industries towards a sustainable, circular and smart use of materials. But then the other transformation that we have is for the rest of the industry. And that's mainly a thermal energy transformation. And the nice thing about that is that we often don't really talk about a lot, is that 90% of the thermal energy consumed in that industry is below 200 degrees. And below 200 degrees means that we have the electrification options that we've been talking about. We have heat pumps, we have sustainable fuel boilers, we have, for example, also infrared technologies that you can use for that. So the big challenge here is really the first one. What both of these challenges, though, share is what we have been calling the operational cost dilemma. Because when an industry invests into technologies, into renewable technologies, these investment costs have to be recovered via operational costs that in the end are different compared to their conventional competitors on the national level, the European level, and the international level. And here we don't only talk about energy costs. If we talk about the lime industry, that is also often part of the emission trading system. We talk about emission costs, but especially if we talk about the circular economy, something that in RE4Industry I think falls a bit short. We also talk about material costs of basically having a business case for alternative recycling processes. However, these big operational cost dilemma actually needs a policy or an industrial policy in the European Union that makes these business cases viable for these industries. And that brings me to my last point, and that is that if we really want to move forward in the European Union towards industrial decarbonization, it means that we are decarbonizing the single European market. We need a circular single market. And in order to reach that, we actually need a common industrial policy. And a common industrial policy means that all the companies in the different countries have a fair chance to decarbonize. And when we look what has happening on the European level in the last maybe 6 months, we talk, for example, about the proposal for the industry and the Green Deal, but we also talk, for example, the climate contracts that we have seen in Germany. We actually see that there is a shift towards giving more responsibilities to member states by loosening state aid rules. And that in the end might create unfair competition that actually hinders that transition that we need towards a circular single European market in the long term. Thanks.
Thank you, Timo. This was actually brilliant, because it's kind of like, shoot everything in the air, it's all sort of flying. And I definitely agree, that, Europe, needs industrial policy and needs to kind of constructive but broad, and comprehensive look at the industry. Jorge, I mean, you come from the member states and you represent, the broad range of industries, and you are kind of in a way best positioned to give us. I presume Portugal has industrial strategy. I mean, most of the members do, and I presume you are going to, kind of predisposed to sort of give us, some ideas, how we can do this in the European Union, what you've been doing in Portugal.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Well, I suppose that my task is reduced because the speakers they spent already some time with interesting points. First of all, I'm the executive director of an association that has roughly 40 industrial sites covering 9 sectors. The sectors that we have seen today: cement, steel, pulp and paper, glass, and so on, chemicals. So it represents roughly slightly more than 10% of electricity consumption in Portugal. So we are speaking about something like 5.3 terawatt hour of consumption. Our consumption is roughly 52 terawatt hours. So this gives you a bit the scope. I mean, I cannot agree more. I mean, there won't be, I mean, the bottom line, there won't be any decarbonization, solid decarbonization without competitive renewable electricity prices. And I would like to mention an aspect that in a way, I mean, the energy crisis and also the conflict in Ukraine, in a way, I realized that it acted a bit as an accelerator, at least for industry, to shift to different fuel sources. Of course, because of the price of the gas and so on, and this has this acceleration effect. But of course, I mean, we to implement the strategy, I mean, there are still some bottlenecks, and I would like to mention some of them. I mean, the electrification that was earlier mentioned. Sometimes, I mean, the access to the grid is not that straightforward. It takes time. It's not a streamlined process, and so it hinders a bit the electrification of industry. That's one one point. Another aspect, I mean, even though the efforts to decarbonize, I suppose, like we in the towns, most European towns, we have those electrical scooters to perform the last mile to arrive to your destination. I suppose we will need as well carbon capture and storage strategies and utilization as well. That's also an issue that we are looking into, and our industry, especially the industry that has more CO2 emissions like cement, and it has been mentioned one Portuguese company, Cecil, that is also one of our associates. In fact, it was only shown a part of the project because it's an integrated project. I mean, the objective is to obtain even change the composition of clinker. Just to give you an example, I mean, introducing more aluminosilicates and also to use solar power for drying processes, organic Rankine cycles for producing of electricity, and so on. Another aspect that I don't know, I start talking. I'm a professor, so sometimes I mean we get a little bit carried away, and I don't want to use too much time. Another aspect that I would like to mention in another area of the efforts to decarbonize. I mean, apart from already, for instance, in the steel sector, I mean, we have left the blast furnaces a long time ago, so all electric arc furnaces. For instance, I know that it's an easier sector, but pulp and paper, I would like to mention the objective to reduce by 85% their emissions, and they are already doing an important effort. I would just like to mention, for instance, this company it's our associate. I mean, the objective is to reduce from roughly 800,000 tons of CO2 per year to just 110 tons of CO2 in 2035. So anticipating the deadline, and they have managed only, I mean, with just to give you an idea, they have invested heavily on biomass boilers that now they have obtained, for instance, reduction of more than 200,000 tons of CO2 just by replacing the technology. So it has been, they are consuming much less gas and so on. And so, I mean, this, I mean, gives you a bit the scope that what we are doing in certain areas, and but the challenges, I mean, they are still there. I mean, there are still, even though the Commission, as we have realized this morning, there is a kind of Swiss Army knife that has different solutions for different problems, but sometimes it's a kind of a maze. I mean, to get the best tool for decarbonizing. But I mean, and the last point I would like to mention is, I mean, if decarbonizing is too expensive, I mean, there are plenty of greenfield outside of EU for our industries, and that would be a shame. So
yeah, that would not be an option, basically. I mean,
okay, I hope that I'm still within the time.
I mean, you know, like we will keep that out of the records, you know, kind of deindustrialization of Europe, you know, as the option to decarbonize.
Maybe not. It's not an option.
But I mean, we spoke quite a bit about technologies and technological challenges, but you know, I mean, Timo, you mentioned the keyword competitiveness, and Jorge, you mentioned the keyword energy prices. I mean, you know, really, I mean, you know, we all represent, I mean, most of us represent companies here or sectors, and it's something, you know, which goes to kind of, you know, beyond just representing public good, you know, but also representing, you know, kind of interests. I mean, would you, like, in short, you know, any of you, you know, pick up, you know, on sort of to comment on competitiveness, energy prices, and versus decarbonization? Do we need to deindustrialize, or can we do it?
I don't know if I wouldn't like to monopolize, but
no,
please. Of course, energy prices are because I mean, in electro-intensive industries, I mean, when more than 70% of their variable costs are operational costs can be electricity, just to mention only electricity. I mean, they need to have access to competitive prices. So, I mean, the options that now we have, also the efforts with the electricity market design, and I mean, we want to have, in a way, stable prices, because this let's say almost like in a Luna Park where you go on a roller coaster. I mean, the companies they cannot do planning ahead with this type of prices, so they need to have a certain forecast of prices in the future, so that they can because at the same time I would like also to mention an important issue. They have to introduce a lot of flexibility on their production lines, because with renewables, I mean, normally it's sun, for instance, in the Iberian Peninsula. I mean, if it's sun in Portugal, probably in Spain it is as well. So I mean, so sometimes we have an excess of photovoltaics production, and some other times we are lacking. So we have these industries, they have to adapt their production to sometimes to lower prices, and so they are very much dependent on price signals as well. So
thank you,
yeah.
thank you. Timo, I mean, you know, if you can bring it also back to the market, you know, and competitiveness, just kind of super quick reflection, and then we'll take the questions from the audience.
Yeah, I would actually also like to bring it back to deindustrialization, because it is a part of competitiveness. And I mean, and I'm talking about not the industrialization of moving production away from Europe, because I mean, if we as Europe decide, okay, we want to have a low emission market, okay, then we also have to give companies a chance to operate in this market. But it's something that I would highlight, that how industry located in the first place, located where the resources were, and the resources, not only like the natural resources, but also the energy resources. And when we talk about the transition in Europe, I think that deindustrialization is not a word that we should not use. Politicians don't like to use it, but I think we're facing actually a transition that might be similar to the coal transition in some industries, because especially when we look at Germany, a country where I'm not living anymore, but I am German, it's impossible for this country to actually get all the energy to transform its industries. So we actually, to a certain degree, have to think, especially in the Iberian context, to a certain delocation, but that we should also allow inside the European Union. We should prepare for it. We should prepare for it, that to make this social and just as possible. But we should not block it by, for example, trying to with all force maintain the same industrial structure that we have right now until 2050. Because industry changed. If we look 30, 40 years ago, industry structure was completely different. And it will also be relatively different in 30 years ago. And that's a little bit the take of that.
Definitely. And I mean, this year's Sustainable Energy Week is about skills. And we have been for years listening about this green jobs and green skills. And, you know, for us, you know, as kind of Industrial Energy Efficiency Association, this always puts you on a kind of defensive foot. You think that we shouldn't really lose brown jobs to win just the green jobs. Frank, Didier, do you want to reflect on what's been said, or shall we move to take some other questions from the audience? Frank,
I only wanted to add only one thing, that, for example, for Germany, as you mentioned, it already happens. The new investments for the chemical industry are announced outside of Europe. So this is happening at the moment. And for the lime, for example, it's not transported worldwide. It's a product that is used locally, and this is good for us. But we need border adjustment mechanisms that need to be put in soon to ensure the competitiveness. Otherwise, it will be very problematic.
Didier, CBAM?
Yeah, wait, I can just repeat. CBAM is important for copper as well. Okay. So if we want to decarbonize, we will need a lot of copper. So copper production will need to double in the coming years. So that's and preferably within Europe, I guess. So.
Thank you. Okay, audience, I see a question, one question. Oh, I see quite a few, too many questions. Okay.
Thank you. So Jeremy Gillon from Bioenergy Europe, so representing the bioenergy sector. So I heard a lot about direct electrification for heating purposes in industries, which I think is a completely valid option, don't get me wrong. But I was wondering, what's your opinion on raw material sourcing to achieve that goal? Especially the last sentence mentioned, we need to double copper production in Europe if we can. But there is also the question of lithium, of cobalt, of all of these raw materials for which we are 100% dependent currently. I mean, not 100%, but we are clearly don't have the value chains to be able to get enough materials to electrify anything and everything, sorry. And I'm afraid that the political world right now is leaning a bit too much towards electrification because every sector, when you ask about their plans, every sector seems to say that electrification will be the way to go. And my question is, what do you think about raw material availability to achieve full electrification? Thank you.
No, I can only agree with that, that it's a challenge. I don't think we have the solutions there yet. I also think that this challenge will be comparable with, for instance, supply chains for biomass as well. So I think you're right. This is not something to ignore, but I think this is something politicians should look at. No, you're right.
So, sorry, I already have the microphone. Sorry, Patrick, I'll move it over to you. So it came to me. Yeah, Rainer Jansen again. Actually, I have just a number of issues I would like to raise. First, to Timo. Indeed, the RE4Industry project focused on renewable energy applications. So we didn't cover all and everything. We didn't look so much into material uses and resource efficiency. Obviously, that is part of the broader picture, but what was not the focus of the project. Second little statement is that actually the latest electricity and energy price spikes actually were not caused by renewable energies. No, this I think is rather clear. It is true that over the years, renewables were a little more expensive, but I think now recently we are paying more the bill of being late. This does not in any case affect your correct statements that of course the energy needs to be provided by at a price that shouldn't lead to immediate deindustrialization. Industry will change. They have always changed and change in the future. So we should ensure reasonable and competitive energy prices. But renewables are part of the solution, as recently shown. And so last little statement, Frank, many thanks for also highlighting that green hydrogen, apart from being another user of green electricity, will not cover all and everything. So the different sectors will need to look differently. And Frank, you have already hinted towards the bioenergy use. I believe we should be more open to different approaches, and I will conclude with working on my own openness. So CCS, I still do not like very much. I'm German, but I'm beginning to understand more that we should work on CCU technologies, because otherwise our poor lime colleagues will really be in trouble. So thanks for that. I learned this in the past. I will pass over to Patrick.
I'll just one point, because we have a question online which actually relates, to yours, and it sort of brings it back, because one of the elements of the project is a biomass and bioenergy, and the viewers, they say that, I mean, just kind of quick reflection of the members of the panels about the potentials of the bioenergy / biomass for the decarbonization. And I think, yeah, Frank, I think that's you.
Okay. Yeah, on biomass, the biomass is quite important for us in the future, I guess. I saw it on an earlier slide of Olgu. When I saw it right, there was the wrong color for the usage of biomass at the moment at EU level. Because, for example, in Northern Italy, already wood is used a lot. And then there are also some nutshell stuff and different things on biomass in Southern Europe, especially. Also, it's coming to Austria and getting more into focus also in Germany. And this is for the lime. This is the main reason why biomass is so interesting, because we have a very great opportunity with BECCS, because we will have to capture our CO2. in the end. There's no other option because the CO2 coming from the stone, we need to capture that. And of course, if we use biomass at first as a fuel, we will definitely also capture the biomass. And even if you don't like it, I think we will need CCS, but does not really matter if we can use CCU and we manage our carbon and we have it in circular economy, it's fine for me as well. And the preferred option, of course. Anyhow, I think we need CCS, but for the lime industry, it's a great opportunity to use biomass. It will come, definitely. We have it in our roadmaps, and it will be important, especially for BECCS.
I would like to quickly comment on the biomass situation as well, because biomass is needed. I completely agree with that. We need everything that we have, but we should not forget the limited availability. And we already see that industries are competing for scarce resources of biomass. And that also in the long term will drive up to a certain degree biomass costs. So it will play a role, but I think especially the lime industry and the cement industry, they will struggle if now biomass prices go up like crazy because everything is used in other industry to, for example, produce biomethane for the glass production.
No, I agree. So we will need all decarbonization solutions that have been mentioned today, and we will have them. We will need them rapidly and massively. So indeed, let's work together. That's also the reason why I mentioned in my introduction that wherever direct electrification is a solution that is already available economically, let's go for it, because there you have the highest efficiency, and then indeed leave the other options for the harder to abate applications. So that, but we will need it all, even CCU, I guess.
Just a short comment. At least our members, I mean, they are a bit agnostic, as we say, concerning the technology. So, I mean, the technology should not be imposed. I mean, because there should be a space for selection. And I agree with the colleague. Of course, concerning biomass and also the CCS that the colleague said they didn't like so much, we are also very interested in the utilization CCU, of course, because then there will be the possibility of joining the hydrogen production that we are launching some pilot projects there, and also from CO2 from the industry, so to produce synthetic fuels, and that would be very interesting for other sectors, notably for the transport sector. That I feel bad when I take the airplane and we are burning a lot of jet fuel. Could have been burning something else. Thanks you.
Hello, I'm Patrick Ruimerman from BTG. It was very interesting, your comments, very nice. I would like to comment a little bit about the deindustrialization comment. I think we talk also about strategic autonomy in Europe, which is very important nowadays in the world of today. And this renewable energies, they are becoming cheaper, and that process will continue once they get into the learning curves. And that should, I think, be a stepping stone for making a more efficient and more resilient industry in Europe. And we can do that because all this money that we pay now to people outside of Europe, that stays with us if we use this renewable energy. So I think this places us at a very good situation to revive our industry or to maintain our industries.
Yeah, maybe we have to differentiate between deindustrialization of Europe or deindustrialization of different countries. Because what you're describing right now, I assume you're from the Dutch-Belgium region. Where do you get the energy from? And the idea is that people, they have in the north, that you either build pipelines or by ship or by cables, get, for example, renewable electricity from everywhere. But all of this has a massive cost. So why inside Europe do you want to get all of that energy with an additional cost to the northern consumers? If in industries which have an operational cost, which is 70%, 80% energy, you could actually just, instead of reinvest in plants in Europe, in Northern Europe, where you have really a lot of difficulties to get the energy to. I mean, one example, BASF in Germany, Ludwigshafen, consumes as much natural gas as the entire country of Switzerland. and you would actually have to kind of electrify or renew that completely. Why don't move some of these industries also in the sense of European community, for example, to places where this energy is? And then we talk about Portugal and Spain. And this is a very Spanish perspective I'm taking here, but I think it's actually on a European scale, probably the better perspective, because also when we talk about employment and about jobs and about industry, again, industry, the biggest chunk of the industry of value added is not in the heavy industry, is not in the basic material production. That's basically in the manufacturing sector. And I'm not talking about moving the manufacturing sector. I'm saying we should make reasonable choices about these very, very energy intensive operations that we currently have in regions in Central Europe with very, very bad access to sustainable energy.
So you kind of proposing this as being part of industrial strategy. I mean, if you're looking kind of industrial strategy of Europe should over encapsulate national industrial strategies, and companies should be free moved around.
Yeah, I mean, we should allow a level playing field for industries inside the European Union. I'm not saying that we should favor Spain or Portugal. I should just say that we should not pump, now in case, for example, of Germany, billions of euros in restructuring the industry, installing clean processes, if you don't even know how to get the clean energy to these factories in Germany. So if we have a level playing field for industry in a single European market, the market in the end would take that choice to a certain degree.
Santiago Oliver from UNESIT, the Spanish Steel Association. My very first comment were more or less quite related with the previous discussions. It's about biomass and hydrogen as well. They are more or less the same. Because I have the impression that all the sector thinks that the biomass is for them, and all the sector thinks that the hydrogen is for them. I don't know where. When I was studying, I remember something that was called integrate, but it doesn't fix too much here. And the second point is in relation with the previous comment that we are now, somebody told that we are now paying the bill for being late in adopting renewables. That's true. Renewables are quite affordable right now, but at least in Spain, we are paying the bill for being too early, not too late. So we are paying our bill for being too early in adopting renewables. That's what it is. It's not a question of discussion and about price. We take it over too early with let's say technologies not too much developed yet, and therefore we were having to pay the further technology deployment that were much more cheaper than those we took several years before. So it's not a question of being too early. You cannot be neither too early nor too late. You need to follow the technology path. But my really question is about, it's not just a question of having electricity, renewable electricity affordable. We need to make it sexy, because you need to invest for long run. You need to have perspective on prices, but you need to have an advantage of taking a risk. And it's not just a perspective. It's a question of having a very competitive renewable prices. And I think we are doing some action in Europe, try to predict the price or to reduce the risk of price, but we need to have it quite affordable and quite cheap. I would say even cheap, because we are having many things that has not been taken over out of Europe. We are just thinking Europe as a kind of jail, and at least for most of the sector here, the perspective is much more farther than Europe. So we should look outside Europe to see what's going on there, and not just thinking that we are going to keep this kind of sectors and very intensive sector here if we cannot produce environment, ecosystem which afford them to stay here with a very, very affordable price, which trigger investment in very long lasting recovery times. So we need not just a predictability, we need very affordable prices, and renewable can afford it, but that's not what the market says.
I would like, we can maybe take another question and then, the panel can reflect. And
My name is Michael Losch. I was 2.5 years special envoy for green industrial policy. I followed the debates in Graz we had, and also the visit of the Ghent ArcelorMittal steel plant and the surroundings. I think it was extremely interesting. I would congratulate the project. But to the discussion right now, I feel it's a little bit dangerous if we ask for a common industrial policy and then we play out each other a little bit, renewable versus hydrogen, CCUS. I think we need all of these technologies, and also coast versus inside. I think it's also very clear from the geography of Europe that in particular Germany, but also other countries, Czech Republic, Eastern Europe, and so on there, we are not our industrial part is not autark. Yeah, it was in the ancient times of coal mining, but we need also already energy, the whole Russian gas and other gas. I mean, imagine we built, or they have been built, which was now a mistake, pipelines over thousands of kilometers to Germany, to BASF and all that. Yeah? So we have now these pipelines here, and I think this is a great chance also, and I see also the European Commission, DG Energy, and also President von der Leyen putting a lot of effort now in repurposing these pipeline network to hydrogen and 100% hydrogen, and that will enable us again to it will take some time. It will cost a lot, but I said, okay, the price was no problem when we imported Russian gas from Siberia. So why should it be now just the refurbishment, which will cost less, be such a problem to do this year? So I would see it more positive, LNGs on the coast, but also I see the hydrogen backbone project as a big chance. And then we have hydrogen, we have renewable classic biomass, where I would also agree that there is a slight problem of availability. And let's not forget also the Ghent, a very impressive plant visit in Ghent, and the Torero project, which was mentioned again. But it's just 5% addition of charcoal into the blast furnace, and it's a technical limit here, so you cannot go further. So I think everything has its merit, and I think we should really call for this variety, not one size fits all, not one technology fits all. That's for me, in a way, the conclusion from our project in Austria. But thank you very much again.
Thank you. I mean, with the kind of last two questions, we have quite controversial elements. One of these kind of scoping of the renewables and making even like electricity sexy, as you said. Another one, like hydrogen, viability, and is it really refurbishing of the pipes, and is it really hydrogen the way that the natural gas sector is trying to preserve his own existence in the European market? So it's kind of, I feel, these two are kind of very good, to kind of conclude the discussion. So I'll give opportunity, like, each one of you, like 2 minutes, who wants to start first? And
I don't mind, just two brief comments. The first colleague, I mean the question of the time when renewables initial projects were implemented. I mean, especially with the feed-in tariffs and so on. I mean, we are linked to contracts that are probably still very expensive, like the colleague was mentioning in Spain, and then of course, I mean, we have to compete. Our associates, they have to compete in the global market, and when in the global market the price of energy is lower, of course there are imbalances. Concerning the hydrogen, I suppose there are two trends. I mean, one trend, probably the one that is being followed in Germany, but I'll leave that to my colleague, to the other colleagues. It's immediately 100% hydrogen. I don't know if that can be done immediately. Probably there will be a stepwise approach where there is a mixture of a certain percentage that doesn't involve completely refurbishing the burning equipment of the main industries that use natural gas. And I suppose natural gas still has a role to play as a transitional fuel in the decarbonization. I mean, for instance, in my country, I mean, we have closed down all the coal power plants, but I mean, in Morocco, they are producing electricity that we are importing into Europe. So I mean, that's it's a global, it's one house, our Hearst. So I mean, we need to have, let's say, policies that do not generate distortions, and in the end, I mean, the other countries are producing with energy that is much cheaper and much more polluting. So I mean, we need to strike the right balance. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just referring to what George said, indeed, natural gas can be transition fuel. I know that in the steel sector, for instance, the DRI plants that are planned now in Europe, I think around 20 new plants are planned. The steel sector now is indeed considering, okay, should we even jump over the natural gas route and immediately go to the hydrogen route because of the current prices? So indeed, let's not use this, let's not forget this opportunity and make sure that this transition can be accelerated rather than slowed down. One other remark on what the gentleman in the audience said about making electricity sexy. I will borrow that from you for my current campaigns. Thanks for that. So I'll use that. And then about hydrogen, also a remark from someone in the audience saying that every sector is claiming that the hydrogen is theirs. I think we forget that no. Hydrogen is already used as a feedstock, and we first should make this fossil free. I think about 98% of the hydrogen today is still fossil based. So it's not about the additional green hydrogen. It's first a transition that we have to make it green hydrogen. So that's it.
Yeah, I will mainly comment on the hydrogen question and the supply chain in Europe. And I would like to reflect on the Spanish situation again, because Spain today is an energy island. It is an energy island. We talked about the different prices because there is a northern neighbor that was never really interested in integrating the Iberian Peninsula into the broader network. And now when we talk about the entire hydrogen backbone, which reads very nice and well, it's a very fancy document. Yeah, you actually require that countries allow transit, constructing infrastructure or repurposing infrastructure for transit, that this hydrogen flows. And having myself worked in transmission systems, everything there works very, very slow. So that's something that we are not talking maybe about 10, 15, we maybe talk in the end about 20 years. And again, another point about the backbone, we have talked a lot with some of the companies that are behind it. There's more wishful thinking in it than actually practicality and towards that approach. And what we also rather see on the other side is when we look at hydrogen right now, what is more practical is that, for example, you have first the supply contracts projects going for producing ammonia in, for example, Portugal and Spain, and shipping it to Rotterdam and have that import route. But again, this could replace one of the big hydrogen consumption of today, which is ammonia production, which is basically meaning, okay, we are not producing ammonia in Northern Europe anymore, but we're using the ammonia of Southern Europe. But the question is of this entire supply chain route of then maybe using that ammonia for something else than fertilizers is actually economically viable compared to using that hydrogen that might be produced in Southern Europe directly there.
Thank you. I mean, Frank, you opened the round table and you have opportunity now to conclude it.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess many important things are already said. I only wanted to add that for me, not all the industries are able to shift their production places. For some of them, it's of course possible, and I like the idea. But for others, for example, for the heavy industries that are focusing on heavy raw materials like lime, cement, and so on, they are at the places where they are for some reason, because there's the deposits of the raw materials, and so they can't be shifted because it's even more CO2 intensive or more cost intensive to transport the raw materials. So for them, it won't be possible. So for that reason, the whole infrastructure topic with hydrogen, and on the other hand also with CO2 infrastructure, is for me very important, and not only for us but also for the cement and probably also for the glass. And we need to think that the pipelines will also transport BECCS, so biomass CO2, and this must to be thought about. And I guess we will need these infrastructures, and we need to focus on building them as soon as possible. Anyhow, also focus, of course, on electricity where it's possible, electrification and usage of biomass.
Thank you. I mean, this is brilliant, and it kind of rounds it up. I think we covered really a lot. And there's something we all agree. I guess it's we don't need to deindustrialize. So thank you for the panelists, and I think lunch is served by itself. No, we have a conclusion first from Bridget before lunch. I apologize for that. I didn't want to trigger your appetite.
Okay. Right. I realize I'm between you and lunch, so I'm trying to make this a very succinct summary. I guess as an introduction to my final statements, I'd like to say that if we need to decarbonize the energy-intensive industry sector in Europe, this of course, is a very big challenge in itself. But I think what we learned also today is that there are a lot of aspirations connected, with this challenge, and also, as Europe to remain a place that is a place where people live well and where they live in security, and so this is something that we need to keep in mind. And of course, our industries, they need to remain in Europe and not, find a future elsewhere. So this is an important aspect. Other than that, I've jotted down like 5 push and pull factors that came up frequently. And the first one really is about transformative technologies. And I should say that, of course, there's no single technology that will do it all. And we heard about the Swiss Army knife that doesn't exist here in this context. We need systemic transformation, and there are a number of technologies involved. And of course, we heard about e-fuels, about green hydrogen that is still scarce, also about the role of bioenergy. And of course, we know we need, a big effort in ramping up our renewable energy resources and how we harvest them. Make them available and store them, of course, is also an aspect that needs to be mentioned. So technologies are not the only answer. They are enablers, definitely, on our way. There's also the second aspect I wanted to mention is governance. And of course, I think Europe has already benefited from this great idea of the Green Deal. I think it's this aspiration that Europe has that has, pushed us forward. If you see the latest technology assessments for Europe, we can say Europe is at the forefront of this development, also in research and innovation. So I think this is a very, very good sign. Governance, that has also translated into net zero energy directives and also renewable energy directive, and also of course needs to be translated in the national and regional dimensions of Europe, and that's an important exercise to make. So governance, I think, is also a push factor in this context. The third element I wanted to mention is the legal framework, the needs to have a legal system, and also to let's encourage the future transformation from a legal point of view. I think it's important. Another aspect I wanted to highlight again is the business models and how, of course, funding plays a role. EU funds play a role. PPAs were mentioned. Encouraging the process by giving incentives, finding viable models that will allow green production in Europe and the use of renewables to the full, and ensure competitiveness also on the global scale. All this cannot be done without a number of actors. We depend on a lot of actors in this, and no one can stay behind. The energy-intensive industries themselves are an actor already. That we have seen success cases, not only of the steel sector, but also the lime, copper, other sectors that are energy intensive. We've seen a lot of really good examples. I think it's important that, our partners in the project have supported this all along, that European associations also play their role in this, and especially in educating people. And I think this is a very important role to enhance the skills pattern of people. Educating people for the future is a very important role. And I think we've done a share of it at ASEA. We have organized 4 knowledge transfer seminars in Austria, in Finland, in Romania, and also in Croatia last week. And I think this was an important contribution. So people, we need people from civil society also supporting the change. And I think if it all comes together, and change can happen if you have the top-down and the bottom-up approach, but everyone is needed, even if the contribution is very small. Every one of us is needed, and I think I'm quite confident that we can do it in the end. So thanks very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitte, for wrapping up the key messages of today's journey. It has been a pleasure to have you all here face to face to exchange all these discussions about the 3 last years that we have had in the project. So I will finish here. I think we can have all a nice lunch. You are all welcome to stay. Please stay so we can continue these discussions. And thank you all.
I can just quickly say that as a part of the project, we have launched, kind of mobile quiz. And if you take a screenshot, it's also in the back of your program. You do it and you win a really beautiful solar charger, which works southern here.
Okay, that's nice, that's nice. So where's the way out? Hallo, gesagt haben. Du musst leider schon wieder gehen.
Ja, das habe ich befürchtet, genau. I totally forgot about it when I saw it, Oh. Yeah.